Okay, so this book we're going to read is The Crossover by Quame Alexander, and let me make sure this started. Yes. And I'm going to read it too, and then I'll tell you what you're going to do. So, a bolt of lightning on my kicks. The court is sizzling. My sweat is drizzling. Stop all the quivering, 'cause thought I'm delivering. Basketball, Josh Bell and his twin brother Jordan are kings on the court with crossovers that make even the toughest ballers cry. But when Jordan meets the new girl in school, the twins' bond unravels. Basketball and brotherhood intertwine to show Josh and Jordan that life doesn't come with a playbook, and sometimes it's not about winning. A Washington Post best book of 2014. So it just goes through, it's won a lot of awards. So a lot of times when you're picking a good book is you can look at the awards to kind of see if it's been known, but that doesn't mean other books aren't good, because sometimes books haven't been around a long time, so they don't have a lot of opportunity. So today while reading, I want you to think about, and I'll stop and we'll think about together, how we think the author came up with ideas. So when we're writing stories or creating novels that aren't necessarily true, how do we get our ideas?
Sometimes it could be from experience that something you've done.
Yeah, so an experience a lot of times helps that, and we can use word choice and kind of how we use specific words, like he used a playbook because that's about basketball, but really he's talking about life. So you can kind of use a play on words to keep your reader interested. So anytime you write something, you're considered an author, right? Mm-hmm. So we're gonna read a chapter each time we meet. So this is chapter 1, and it's written in a poetry format. So you see how each part of his story has, it looks like a different poem. So we're gonna stop and kind of see how he wrote it throughout. So the first chapter is dribbling. At the top of the key, I'm moving and grooving, popping and rocking. Why are you bumping? Why are you locking? Man, take this thumping. Be careful though, 'cause now I'm crunking. Crisscrossing, flossing, flipping, and my dipping will leave you slipping on the floor while I swoop in. To the finish with a fierce finger roll, straight in the hole, swoosh. So when I'm reading this part of the story, I have a lot of visualizations in my head. So have you ever watched a basketball game? Mm-hmm. And so it's really cool if you focus on one basketball player and like see all the cool things they can do with their body and the ball. Mm-hmm. They just do it seamlessly. So his word choice really helps us visualize. So moving and grooving, that's kind of like dancing back and forth, and flossing, you know what the floss is. Slipping on the floor while I swoop. And then we swoosh is when you throw the ball, nothing but net, right? So I really like how this author does that, so we can use that word choice. Josh Bell is my name, but Filthy McNasty is my claim to fame. Folks call me that 'cause my game's acclaimed. So downright dirty, it'll put you to shame. My hair is long, my height's tall. See, I'm the next Kevin Durant, LeBron, and Chris Paul. So he uses really famous basketball players to compare himself to, because he's like, okay, so after I do this, this is the up and coming. I'm gonna be the next well-known basketball player. Remember the greets? My dad likes to gloat. I balled with the Magic and the GOAT. But tricks are for kids, I reply. Don't need your pets. My game's so fly, Mom says. Your dad's old school, like a Chevette? Do you know what a Chevette is? I'm assuming it's probably like a car.
It's a Chevy.
Chevy car? Mm-hmm. You're fresh and new, like a red Corvette. Your game is so sweet, it's crepes Suzette. Each time you play, it's all net. If anyone else called me fresh and sweet, I'd burn mad as a flame. But I know she's only talking about my game. See, when I play ball, I'm on fire. When I shoot, I inspire. The hoop's for sale, and I'm the buyer. So how do you think this author has written this book to keep us interested in reading it?
It makes it rhyme a lot.
Right, and that kind of makes it easy to read. It doesn't feel like it's so much stuff. It almost is like, okay, kind of like a song. So it's really easy to read, and the visualization he gives us is just great because I'd burn mad as a flame. So we can visualize in our head something burning, like, wow, that's really mad. We're going to read a few more poems, and then we're going to talk about what we can write on. How I got my nickname. I'm not that big on jazz music, but Dad is. One day we were listening to a CD of a musician named Horace Silver, and Dad says, "Josh, this cat is the real deal. Listen to the piano, fast and free, just like you and JB on the court." "It's okay, I guess, Dad." "Okay? Did you say okay? Boy, you better recognize greatness when you hear it. Horace Silver is one of the hippest. If you shoot half as good as he jams." "Dad, no one says hippest anymore." So can you kind of relate to that? Your parents might use like old lingo compared to the new lingo that you use today. Well, they ought to, because this cat is so hip. When he sits down, he's still standing, he says. "Real funny, Dad. You know what, Josh?" "What, Dad?" "I'm dedicating the next song to you." "What's the next song?" "Only the best song, the funkiest song, on Silver's Paris Blues album, Filthy McNasty." So it just kind of goes through that, and I really like the word choice. So we're going to think about a topic that you're interested in and that you want to write about, and we're going to just kind of, each time I meet with you, we'll go through like, okay, word choice. What are some words that relate to that can get our reader hooked, that makes them want to continue reading our story? So we're going to read one more. At first, I didn't like the name because so many kids made fun of me on the school bus. At lunch, in the bathroom, even Mom had jokes. "It fits you perfectly, Josh," she said. "You never clean your closet, and the bed of yours is always filled with cookie crumbs and candy wrappers. It's just plain nasty, son." But as I got older and started getting game, the name took a new meaning. And even though I wasn't into all the jazz, every time I'd score, rebound, or steal a ball, Dad would jump up, smiling and screaming, "That's my boy out there. Keep it funky, Filthy." And that made me feel real good about my nickname. So he's taken his nickname and really given us a good example on why that is. So, and next is Filthy McNasty. So I'm curious what that will be, because he has a lot of good jokes in here too. I'm going to grab a piece of paper real quick. Okay. So let's think about what kind of, it doesn't have to be a story, it doesn't have to be a personal narrative, it could be expository, it could be about anything. What is something that would interest you in writing about? Like, do you like writing nonfiction better or fiction?
Better than fiction, because nonfiction is a little bit harder to do.
Okay, you have to be, so you could write a fiction story. And the good thing about a fiction story, so he wrote it in poem format. So that is a little bit harder because you have to really have that play on words. But you can do a fiction story like a chapter book, you could do a short story, you could do kind of anything with it. So do you want to do a fiction? Okay, so we're just going to do like a brainstorming map. So what would you want your fiction story to be about? So the cool thing about fiction, it could be like something you're interested in, but it doesn't have to be nonfiction. You could turn it into fiction. So tennis, you just had tennis tryouts. You could have a whole story about that. Or your chickens, or farm animals that you like to do. So what's something?
I can do chickens, those are very easy to do.
You want to do chickens? So we can create a story about chickens? Okay, so write chickens in the middle. And then around it, we're just going to write like things that you want to include in your story. So what kind of story? Would you want it to be funny or kind of, You could do informational, but in a story format. You could do a sad chicken story.
It would need to be funny.
Okay, so write funny so we know we'll need to get some humor in there. Have you ever seen Chicken Little? So that's kind of a funny chicken story. Okay, so what kind of chickens do you want in here? We need our characters. And there could be other animals too. We just know chicken's gonna be the main character.
A chicken that is like the outcast of all the chickens.
Okay, I like that. So you can write that there so we have all of our ideas for next time. He's the outcast. Do you want to think of a name later? Okay, and what other characters do you think might be in here along with this outcast chicken?
His parents that had the chicken.
Okay, so you can write that. Do you want the setting to be like typical on a farm, or do you want to do something out there?
Well, we'll keep it on a farm.
Okay. Like maybe they're going to downtown Houston, strolling through the streets. Okay, so a farm, so we have our characters, we have what kind of, is it going to be funny? We have it's on a farm. What are we missing from a story format? What do most stories have?
I'm gonna say conclusion.
Okay, they have a conclusion. So but they also have a problem and a solution normally. So we know the problem is that he's the outcast.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's think about, if you're an outcast, you really can't fix that, can you? So what could our solution be? What would be a good solution to kind of fixing feeling like an outcast?
By trying to be more inclusive of what the other chickens are doing.
Okay, I like that. So you can write that.
Car riders with counting cash.
Okay.
At this time, we're ready for our car riders to line up.
Okay, so being inclusive and things like that, okay? So we have a really good start. So now we just want to think like a format. Do you want to, because you could be a children's picture book writer one day. You could be a poet. You could just write it like you would like at school. You know what I mean? When you just kind of write it, this is my story, this is how it is. So how do you think you want to compose this?
I think I would keep it like in a poet form to make it a little more fun.
I like that. That would be a lot of fun. So write poem form. So our job to be able to do this is we're really going to have to look at word choice. So we need to start brainstorming words that have to do with chickens and kind of being an outcast, so we can, all poems don't rhyme, but I like how that one was written, like it's kind of a good beat and keeps it going. So I'll keep this, hold on this for next time. And then we can dive further into it. So today we talked about word choice and what authors do to keep us hooked and things like that. And then we have our ideas. So we'll start writing next time. All right?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, sir.